you will see a little blue or a little red dot up here. I guess it's not red, but it says recording. So if you don't see that, just remind me to turn on recording. Okay. So I'm going to have 48 minds reminding me that I'm on task. Okay. I also forget things. So comes with the territory. But the reason why I'm not retired is I really enjoy teaching. I really do. I'm not saying I do it for free, but I really enjoy teaching. So gives me a lot of pleasure. The only thing I don't like is grading. Grading is a pain, but not every job's perfect. So okay, so what I want to do is are there any questions so far? When you click on the video and modules, it'll go directly to YouTube. And then you can just see what it is. It's sometimes YouTube channels that names are really long, but this one will give you a direct link. Okay, admin. Um, Here is my user ID. You know, it's interesting. I used to work for IBM as a systems engineer, and my IBM ID was Fergus T. Also, it was very interesting when they assigned that to me. Okay, it comes directly into my phone, so I try to answer emails quickly, just to, you know, like is the person that told me about the announcement today. Is she here? Huh? No, no, it wasn't about the traffic. It was about I had an announcement from last semester carry over, and it says worksheet 5 is due today.
56 minutes of traffic on the freeway, and I left for school like 2 hours early, and I just got here. I thought I was gonna be late. That's why I sent an email.
Okay, I didn't get your email, not yet. I haven't, but I've been trying to get this room set up. Traffic can be a pain. 5 is you come up 5 or 99. 5, yeah. Okay. Now the prerequisites. Okay, just move back up a second here. Okay, that's my email. If you want an office hour, I like to do a Zoom office hour if we could. And it can be on any day other than Tuesday, Thursday. It can be Monday through Sunday. I don't, just as long as we have compatible times. And it can be a group Zoom or an individual Zoom. Either way is fine. Okay. This class is designed to start at 12:30, but we'll be here at noon to set up. And so if you'd like to come in and get some questions answered, that's fine with me. Just come on in. You can come in and study in a group if you want, which is perfect because we have the room to ourselves. So it's really kind of cool. Um, Lectures typically are not 2 hours. They're typically an hour and a half. Because I have to break down the equipment. I have to get over to the lab and stuff. So I usually don't go full 2 hours. You'll find that hour and a half though has got plenty of stuff in it. People always ask me, what should we call you? It doesn't matter as long as it's with respect. You can call me Ferguson, Professor Ferguson, Professor Tom, all that's fine. Okay. It's not I used to teach high school, and it was always a battle in high school on what to call me because they didn't want to call me Mr. Ferguson. it was just a rebellious thing, and it was just such a pain. I don't want to relive that experience ever. Okay, prerequisites. The class is based upon you've been through a class like 305 or 305. And I'm going to go over the stuff from 305 that you need today. So if it's been a while since you had 305, or you hated 305 and wanted to put it out of your life forever, I'm going to go over a little bit of information you need from that class. But it's based on 305, just FYI. The other thing from 305 is your lab protocols. Now we're going to be doing some heavy duty labs in here, and you're going to have a heavy duty write-up as well. Our write-ups are going to be very similar to if you were taking Chem 400, 401, 420, 421. It's very consistent lab-wise throughout the department, except for Chem 300 and Chem 305. And I don't know why those aren't consistent, but that's the way it is. So, and I'll be going over that. I have a number of videos on that as well, how to do that lab write-up. Okay. Now, do any of you use ChatGPT? Okay, you'll find that very helpful in this class. In fact, I'm proposing that there's something called metacognition. Metacognition is when a person takes over their own learning. And I'm proposing that with ChatGPT, students can take over their own learning by going to the student learning outcomes and, for example, evaluate and present a current biological topic. So you do it, that would be your prompt for ChatGPT. And then you can refine it after that. And then you can create questions based on that prompt that ChatGPT will create for you. And you can say also create a key for the answers to those problems that it creates. So you can almost do your own class through ChatGPT and knowing the student learning outcomes. And I've been getting a lot of negative feedback saying, "Oh, that'd be awful. Why would they need us when they can do it themselves?" Well, maybe that's something that needs to be evaluated. So anyway, so I like ChatGPT. That's good you're using it. Okay. This is what we're supposed to cover in here, these student learning outcomes. And they're pretty generic. I think they're too generic personally, but anyway, they're generic. Okay. All right. As far as materials for the class, did they have you buy a textbook for 305? Optional. Well, it's the same, if you did buy the textbook, it's the same textbook for this class. And it's a really good textbook, and I don't know why they didn't require it, but anyway. So theoretically, it's optional then, instead of being required. So if you've not bought it, what does it cost? It wasn't cheap, was it? $30-something, that's reasonable, $30-something. But as opposed to new, it's like 180 or something crazy like that. Okay, all right. This is required though, the following. Goggles. Now you have goggles for 305, and those should be fine. And if you haven't bought goggles yet, the brand to buy is Uvex Stealth. On and they aren't too bad. I think they're $12 or something like that. Do not buy the inexpensive splash proof. They're not allowed in this department. The reason for that is they don't work very well. You get what you pay for. They're $4. Go to Home Depot, $4, chemical splash proof. They don't work very well because the uh, adhesion to your forehead is not very good, and stuff kind of get in. So we tested it about 4 years ago, and those were just awful. So we've disallowed them. You can only have something like a Uvex Stealth or comparable. Okay. And you can check. Now we're going to have a series of dry labs. We're not going to have a wet lab for a while. But if you'd like to bring in your goggles and let me look at them, I'd be glad to say yay or nay. Okay. But the goggles are required. No exceptions, period. Okay. Let's see. Long pants. Now in the winter, it's not a problem having long pants. In the summer, it is. A lot of people like to wear shorts. And if the shorts are kind of long down to your knee, that's fine. But anything shorter than that are not. It's just that you have too much flesh exposed. Now we're going to be using some marginally intense chemicals. The higher you go into chemistry, the more uh, I say intense as far as risk goes for bodily harm. So chemical safety in the lab as you go upwards is intensified big time. I've been known as the safety Nazi. I'm really big on safety. I've never had, where's some wood? There's no wood in this class. It's fake. Huh? Ah. I've never had a student had an accident in my class. Occasional burn from a Bunsen burner or something like that, but nothing other than that. And I want to protect you guys. So anyway, so I'm big on lab safety. Okay. Closed-toed shoes. I worded that closed foot. You need to have your shoes closed in the back as well. That's why I said closed foot, not closed toes, closed foot. And you should, to try out your shoes, whether they're lab appropriate or not, is if you poured boiling water on your foot with your shoe on, would it hurt? If it would hurt, wear something else. Like things things with holes in it, for example. What are those shoes called? Yeah, those are not good. So find some shoes like that and throw them in the trunk of your car so you always have them with you. You know, the previous instructor required a scientific calculator. You have a calculator left over from 305, that's totally fine. It doesn't have to have logarithmic functions on it or scientific notation. You just need a plain old calculator. Your watch, not your watch, your phone will be fine. You need a lab coat or apron this class, required. I prefer a lab coat over an apron because it covers more flesh, basically. And for extra credit, if you would like to tie-dye it, I'll give you extra credit. A lot of my students over the years have been tie-dyeing their lab coats. That's what mine is, is tie-dyed. So your lab coat doesn't have to be white. It doesn't have to be, I'd recommend cotton because it tie-dyes better than polyester. But that's required. Now, if you forget your goggles, you can rent a pair out of the stock room for $2. Same with a lab coat. They have a limited number of lab coats there as well. So, but just, you have a number of weeks because they're doing dry labs. And dry labs, you don't have to have goggles or a lab coat. Only when chemicals are out. Bless you. Okay, are there any questions about requirements? Obviously, you need a internet connection device. Everything is done through Canvas in my class. Everything, including grading. And I put all the grades in. Now, the weird thing about Canvas towards the end of the semester. I can't believe I'm not coughing. Yesterday I was on the phone with my friends and I was coughing like, anyway. Canvas doesn't upgrade your score right away, particularly towards the end of the semester because it's overloaded with everyone's doing their grades then. But sometimes it takes like 2 or 3 days for your score to be upgraded. Like, especially if there's a score change, it's weird. And so I always have to wait a couple extra days to turn in grades because Canvas, it's still catching up. And then if I enter it too early and submit your grades, then I have to change your grade afterwards, assuming it changes. So it's a real pain. Okay. Time requirements. We're going to have 4 hours of lecture per week. And basically, I cover a functional group per day. So for example, Thursday, I'm going to talk about alkanes, which is the simplest of the organic compounds, and we'll cover that in one day, including examples of problems. But you're going to be doing, and in the beginning, it may seem simple, but the problem with this class is it increases exponentially the amount of material you have to know. Now, one thing about this class is every test is a final because it depends on prior knowledge. Unlike a class like 305, where when you're finished with solutions and you go on to acids, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to know anything about solutions or not. But in this class, you have to know the prior material. So every test, except for test 1, is a final. It's comprehensive, which makes it challenging because once you get off of test 1, you're responsible for test 1 when you go into test 2. Test 3 is responsible for test 1, 2, and 3 altogether. So it builds. And it's hard to get caught up. So stay ahead. Stay caught up. All I can say. And I've been doing this for a long, long time, and it's really consistent. Now, one way to study for this class that is very effective is to look up the topic we're going to study, like alkanes, go to modules. Let's just do that. Okay, so these are the videos available for Unit 1. Okay, many years of Unit 1. Okay, so we're going to study alkanes on Thursday. So one way to do it is to download the slides I cover. The slides are available on Canvas also. In fact, let me show you where those are. We go to Files, Unit 1, Slides, and there is alkanes. Okay, so this is what I'm covering Thursday. So what students, particularly successful students in this class, have done is they print these. Then they watch the video from last semester before they see me lecture on it. That is extremely successful in this class. Because after you go through the lecture the first time on the video, you may have all these questions. Well, I'm not there to answer them. So you can write notes on your slides. So when I do the lecture in person, you can say, what about, do we have to worry about orbital hybridization for alkanes? You cover that in one video, but not another, something like that. And we're not covering orbital hybridization for this class for alkanes, by the way. So anyway, that's one very effective way to study. is download the slide, look at the video, and then when you come and listen to me lecture, creating the new video, you can have questions. I like teaching in person as opposed to online. Like fall semester is always online, and I don't know why it's always online, but it's always online. Spring is always in person, and it's much more effective for me to be looking at all of you when I'm lecturing, because then not a lot of questions are asked during lecture, but I think there are more questions asked during lecture for in person than online. So that's why I like doing it online and in person. Okay, so these are the slides, all 16 weeks worth. And when you print the slides, print 2 per page. Don't do full page. You don't need that. Just do 2 per page. It's best. Gives you room for making notes. Okay, so then if you go over to modules, after you've downloaded the slides, and then we can pull up, okay, let's just go to a year ago. And there's the link. Now we're in the YouTube channel right now. And there I am in all my glory. Now, of course, you can skip over boring sections.
You'll see a full.
So you can skip over the boring part. You can go to the part that you have trouble with and repeat it. Now, I've been doing videos for many, many years. And I taught at Tacoma Community College, and I was on a task force to increase media use in lectures. So I chose to incorporate videos. And I had some Russian students, a lot of Russian students up in Tacoma, and she didn't speak English very well. So she sent me this email after she watched my video 29 times. 29 times she watched it. She said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I said, this is really valuable. And so I've been doing it ever since. And I made the mistake of not saving them on YouTube and saving them on Tacoma's server. And when I left Tacoma, moving down here, my videos still reside in Tacoma and I can't transfer them. So the only videos I have are the videos that I've done here. So it's still almost 300 of them. So, but I really believe in videos. Okay, so does that make sense? Where to find the videos? They're in the modules. So download the slides, print them, watch the old video, and then you'll be super prepared for watching it the second time when I do it for you guys. Okay? Now, if you don't have time to do that, I'm just saying that's the most successful way my students have found to go through this class. The other second success item for that is I give practice tests. Focus on the practice test big time, because your real test is going to be very similar to the practice test. The whole point of a practice test. So between those 2 techniques, you should do fine in here, particularly if you hate math. Okay, are there any questions about that process? That pretty reasonable? Okay. All right, so we're gonna. Okay. Now you're going to have to download a lab contract. And I'm going to talk about this in lab. And you're going to sign it and then upload it as an assignment. It'll be your easiest 10 points ever. Also, the risk waiver is another very easy assignment. 10 points each one. It'd take you all of 30 seconds to do. Automatically 20 points right there. Boom. Okay, now safety is a big deal. I've already mentioned it. Um, there's quite a bit of write-up for each wet lab. There's no write-up for dry labs, but for wet labs, there's quite a bit of pre-work to be done, and that's part of the safety part, because you have to know what you're doing in lab so that you don't screw up. Okay, I'm going to talk about the research project. Now, I got some example. Basically, a research project is going to be two things: a 1,000-word essay plus a poster, and you'll be doing this singly. Now, I would recommend over recess at the 8-week mark. That's when you do your project. You have a whole week off, and what better way to spend it than doing your project? It's due anytime in the semester. You want to do it this weekend? Fine. All the better. Get it over with. Basically, you're going to choose a topic. And if you want to know some ideas on some of these topics, you can go to
owner name,
oops. I'm still in the video here. Let me get
under unit 1, slides. Okay, and so this is the PDF.
all right, how do I end the stupid thing? Where?
The first tab at the very top.
Oh, yeah. I have done this once or twice before, believe it or not. Okay, oh yeah, go to files, projects, and these are some examples of some topics done in the past. I've been doing this forever. Bless you again. So if you can just go scroll through these. Now, some of these are really well done, and others are, okay. Like this is kind of an, okay. This one's on combustion. Now these are done for both my organic class and my prep class. So like this one, this could be used in this class, but normally I recommend a black background, and then everything will pop then. White on white, kind of blends all in. And think of the poster as your media for your essay. Now, what is tear gas? Now, I've had topics range from chemistry of dying. Why does rigor mortis set in? Why does it go away? Chemistry of love, all those hormones associated with feelings of that nature. I had some music people. I played guitar and played the piano, so I have a lot of interest in music. And so one person did on guitar string corrosion. That was his topic. And another person was into violin, and she talked about the finish on the wood on a violin body, how it affects the sound chemically. And all those are valid. Who's heard of thalidomide? Yeah. Horrible, wasn't it? Yeah, it's a teratogen. Teratogen causes birth defects. Thalidomide was given to first trimester women for nausea. It worked really well. But the enantiomer, which is the mirror image of the one that worked really well, caused birth defects. The birth defects were death. Children, if they lived, they had no arms and no legs. And it happened more in Europe than the United States, but it was a fair number in the United States as well. Anyway, a student that was her project. She just wanted something really dramatic, and that was certainly a dramatic topic. So another person did it on, she was in a horse riding accident, and she fell and smashed her head really badly, and it ended up affecting her gait and her walk. And that's what her topic was, and how it had to do with calcium in her, the calcium generator for her muscles and that part of her legs was affected. So her muscles weren't working very well. That was her topic. So if you got or something going on with your family, disease-wise or anything, it's really kind of wide open. And I'd like you to do something you're interested in. And this way you'll get credit for it at the same time. Most of the time, people do pretty well on that. It's kind of a nice buffer on against your test grades. Your tests are going to be, I tell everyone there's two kinds of points, easy points and hard points. Tests are hard points. Labs are easy points. Projects are easy points. So maximize the easy points because one easy point is equal to one hard point. No difference, except one is easier to get than the other. Okay, so there's lots of examples. Okay, okay, grading. Okay, basically, every test, I take the raw points, convert them to percent. So every test is worth 100 points. Notice the project is worth 100 points too. Okay, and the final is the same thing as test 5. Labs are 10 points per lab. And you have around 20-ish, 12-ish labs, something like that. So basically, cumulatively, your labs equal a test. Now, if you do the labs, they're not hard, they're just long. Now, these are not dry labs, these are the wet labs. I mean, this includes dry labs, but the dry labs are pretty straightforward. It's just a worksheet, basically. But the wet labs are not. They're more work. And I'm going to talk in depth about that in lab today. So that's basically it, how you get a grade in here. And then it's strictly 90% and above or is an A, 80%, et cetera. Now, people always ask me, do you round? Answer is yes. So really you need to get an 89.5 in here to get an A. Because 89.5 rounds to 90. Or 79.5 to get a B, et cetera. Okay? A lot of teachers don't round. A student can be 0.02% off and they won't round, which I don't believe in that. So anyway, and it's at my discretion what I do. So what's nice about teaching in higher ed. Okay, so anyway, that's the grading. The tests will all be in class. Now we're going to be doing something a little different on tests 2, 3, 4, 5. Test 1 is going to be a standard old test. Everyone will take the same test. On test 2, however, there will be 2 tests, and you have the option of taking either one. One is called test 2, and the other one is called test 2 extra. And the extra one has harder problems, but you can get more points. So the extra test will be worth more than 100 points, but it's harder as well. So it's kind of like extra credit problems thrown in. And No, the practice test will be basically for both. It's just a matter of doing the problems. It's yeah. Huh? Oh, practice test, yeah. Now, where do you find practice tests? Okay, you go to files, test related, practice tests. Unit 1. Now, as a student, I used to hate trick problems. So as a teacher, I don't make trick problems because I used to hate them. You may think my problems are trick, but they're not meant to be trick. So everything I do is very straightforward. Every test will have 3 parts: naming, synthesis, and um, um, MBFs. That's the forces between electromagnetic forces between molecules. Every test, 3 parts. And the further we go, they'll have less than, he'll have more and more MBF stuff. Okay, so this is practice test for test 1. Name this molecule here. It's a phenol, it's an alcohol. There are 3 parts to unit 1. We have alkanes, alkenes, and alcohols. And this is typical test. So this one has the key. Some of them have no key, and I published the key as a separate file. But it gives you a nice way to figure out how long the tests are going to be. Now this had 190 raw points, which I converted to percent. Everything's a percent in the Canvas scoring goes. Okay, so does this make sense? Has anyone taken 306 before? Curiously? Okay, because sometimes we have people that have, for whatever reason, had to drop the class and then are retaking it. So if they've done that, I usually give them credit for the labs they've already done. They don't have to repeat them. It's just, I hate busy work. I hate it. And I don't like my students to have to do busy work. So I try to let you not have busy work to do. Sometimes it may seem like busy work, but so as much as I can, I try to help you in that regard. So like repeating labs you've already done before, that's total busy work to me. So you won't have to do that, but that's not the situation. Okay. Okay. If you have any disabilities, let me know and we can work through those. You don't have to give me all the paperwork. Just tell me what it is. That's fine. I trust you. Okay. Again, survival tips, don't get behind. Okay, now this is the lecture lab schedule. And notice we have 4 weeks of dry lab. I did not design this lab schedule. It was given to me and said, this is your lab schedule by the department chair. So guess what I had to do for dry labs? I would start wet labs off sooner if I was designing this, but I'm not. So the first basic, you don't need to have your lab coat and everything until, the 5th week. Our first lab is on alcohols and phenols. Um, that's our first wet lab. So up until that point, we're going to be just doing like this, only in the lab. Basically a worksheet. You can work in groups, you work by yourself. All that works fine with me. You can also do, you can come to the lab and get started, and then you can finish at home also. So some of you have families and it'd be nice to get home earlier than later. That's fine with me too. I totally understand. Life, school, constant balance. Now I'm widowed, so I'm by myself and my 3 dogs. So for me, life is a little simpler. Just making sure my dogs have time to do their thing and they have food and water and they're in good shape. I have 2 little bitty dogs and a bigger small dog. I have one weighs 8 pounds, the other weighs 3.5 pounds, and the big one weighs 20 pounds. And he's a rescue dog. My neighbor died, and I didn't want him going to the pound, so he joined my family. So I'm a real sucker for dogs and cats. And I've been feeding an abandoned cat for 4 years, my neighbor and I think we found a home for her. It's a really lovely black cat with golden eyes. She's the prettiest cat. I used to have a black cat, and I would bring her in except for my 3 dogs. I was like, 3 dogs in an apartment is not trivial. 3 dogs and a cat would be crazy. Okay, so this is the lab schedule, lecture topics. I'll try to adhere to this pretty closely. So that's what I wanted to cover on admin. Are there any, yeah. What will, on, on the test days, those should be pretty solid. I will definitely give you ample notice if there's a change though. There. 30, oh, here. You're saying that's a holiday? It is. I'm glad you told me that. Is that during the recess?
It's a Monday.
Oh, if it's a Monday, it doesn't matter. So. Yeah, it'd be Thursday of that week. Was that your question? Okay.
That's always on Thursdays.
Um, I, well, like here, there's a test on Tuesday and a test on Thursday. And you can come either day. Test 3, I'm going to stress will be for the extra test. Tuesday would be the not extra test anyway. So, and this is the first semester I'm trying this too. This may not work so well. It might be awkward, but anyway, I wanted to try it. So. Okay, that's what I wanted to cover admin wise. Are there any questions about anything so far? Okay, now, are you able to hear me okay? Okay, I'm always concerned about that. So make sure if I'm mumbling or go like this or something like that. Okay, I want you guys to feel comfortable with me. I'm easy to talk to. So if you can't understand me, and when you ask a question, make sure you speak up. Remember, I'm your old grandfather who doesn't hear very well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to Unit 0. Now, this is a holdover from your 305-ish class. Now we're going to be doing structures from today, the rest of the semester. Structures, structures, structures. And they're going to be Lewis structures. And they're going to be specifically Lewis line structures. So that's what we're going to practice today. Now, if you forgot how to draw a Lewis structure, I've given you steps. And this will be in the packet also. Now, the thing about Lewis structures, Dr. Lewis, 150, 180 years ago, had a problem because at the time they could come up with formulas. They had formulas, but well, I've laughed an hour. At least I can sleep. 2 nights ago, I only had an hour and a half sleep. Night before, hour and a half sleep. Every time I fall asleep, I start to cough. My dogs sleep with me, so I would cough and they would jump up and walk on my chest, you know. Okay, so Lewis would get a formula, and he wasn't able to deduce any structure. So he came up with these rules based on the valence electrons. Valence electrons are the electrons in the outermost orbit of the atom. And they are basically like this. And they're divided into no orbital. Water doesn't help. You should. Okay, so basically the each atom has a representation of its outermost electrons. For example, hydrogen has one one electron. Oxygen's got 6 total, but there are 2 singletons and 2 pairs. And the pairs are stay together. Nitrogen has 5 valence electrons, a pair and 3 singletons. Now, the singletons is what does the bonding, not the pairs. There are 2 exceptions to that, but not in our class. Okay. So if you see a singleton, that means oxygen can have, how many singletons does oxygen have? 2, that means 2 bonds. Either 1 single or 2 singles or 1 double. Total of 2 bonds. Nitrogen similarly can have 3 bonds as 3 singletons. Okay, either 3 single bonds, a double and a single, or a triple, as long as it's 3 total. Notice sulfur is the same as oxygen. That's because sulfur is underneath oxygen on the periodic table. And that's why sulfur chemistry is the same as oxygen's chemistry. It's because the valence electrons are the same. So valence electrons determine chemistry. The halogens, fluorine is at the top. Notice it has 3 pairs, 1 singleton. That means 1 bond. Okay, so when you put a Lewis structure together, let's take water, for example. Okay, the first thing to do is you put in the middle the oxygen or the atom that has the most singletons. In this case, it's going to be oxygen. And then we surround it by the atoms that have the least amount of singletons, in this case, hydrogen. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two is you connect all the singletons together. Then you have an analysis step next. Are there any singletons left over? No. So you're in good shape. If there are singletons left over, you need to hook them up also, even if it means connecting up to the same set of atoms for a double bond or a triple bond. But everything has to have everything has to have at least one bond for that step. Okay. Now, the next step is to determine whether this is a legal Lewis structure or not. Legal means that carbon has 4 bonds, nitrogen has 3 bonds, 1 electron pair, oxygen 2 bonds plus 2 electron pairs, hydrogen has 1, halogens have 1. Okay, that's the first step of determining whether it's legal or not. Now, this is not the process your book calls for. Your book calls for a much more complicated process. But for most of the time, this process works just fine. And it's a lot simpler. Okay, also, the second part of that is you have to verify the bonds. Also, you have to verify whether there's a full shell or not. Full shell means there's 8 electrons that are in the total shared environment, except for hydrogen, which is 2. So everything but hydrogen needs to have 8 electrons. Okay, so let's look at water again. Okay, so let's look at number of bonds. How many bonds does oxygen have here? 2. How many is it supposed to have? 2. So that's good. How many bonds does hydrogen have? 1. How many is it supposed to have? 1. So bond-wise, it's fine. Okay. Let's look at electron shell now. Let's look at oxygen's electrons. How many electrons does oxygen have and shared? Is it equal 8 or not? Well, each bond has got 2, and we have the 2 pairs, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8. So that's valid. So this is a legal Lewis structure. And the next step is to draw solid lines where the bonds are. So that's the legal Lewis structure for water. Now, water looks a little differently than that. If you look at VSEPR theory, and you cover that in 305, what should this look like? Instead of being linear, it should be what? Yeah, exactly, bent. It has to do with a tetrahedral shape. Okay, so let's look at one more complicated. Let's look at okay, let's look at that formula. Okay, let's do a Lewis structure for that. Now, sometimes there are multiple Lewis structures that are valid, which is fine, as long as they pass those 2 criteria. 8 octet, 8 electrons, and the number of bonds. Those are both passed. It's a legal structure. Okay, so we've got 2 carbons, 6 hydrogens, and 1 oxygen. Does everyone see where we have 1 oxygen, 6 hydrogens, and 2 carbons? Okay, it has to do with a subscript. Okay, if there's no subscript, that's the same as 1. Okay, so we have 2 carbons. Carbons have the most singletons, so those go in the middle. Oxygen's the next one. We can stick it between the carbons or outside the carbons. Let's stick it between the carbons this time. In fact, let's use different colors here. And we have 6 hydrogens, and put those around. Okay. Now there's another way to do that. We can put the oxygen outside the 2 carbons or in between. Both are valid. Okay, so let's do okay, so we've connected up all the singletons. 1 bond, and every atom has at least 1 bond connected. Are there any extra singletons? No extra singletons. That means we're all done. If there are singletons, we'd have to hook them up too somehow, ending up with multiple bonds. Okay, the next thing we do is verify this is legal. So now we're going to count. Okay, carbon needs 8 shared electrons. 2, 4, 6, 8. Good. Same with the carbon on the other side. 2, 4, 6, 8. Oxygen in the middle. We have 2 pairs, that's 4, and 2 bonds, that's 4 more, so that's 8. So everything has got a complete shell, 8 or 2. Now we draw lines between all the bonds. Okay, that's your first ether, called dimethyl ether. I'm going to be studying that in Unit 1. Okay. Now, chemists and biochemists hate writing H's. So they've developed a system to not write H's. They don't like writing C's either. Organic chemistry and biochemistry, the fundamental atoms are carbon and hydrogen. So they develop a system called a line drawing to shortcut drawing of organic compounds. So from today onward, we're only going to be using line drawings, not the condensed formula with the C and H's. So we're going to have oxygen. That's the line drawing. So what in the heck does that mean? Where'd the carbons and H's go? Okay, so carbon has how many bonds? 4. Okay, hydrogen is the most common element in the universe. So we fulfill any excess bonds in carbon with hydrogens in our head. Okay, So a line drawing's got three parts. Okay, so every beginning, end, and kink in a line drawing is a carbon. How many carbons is that? 3. There's always a beginning and end, that's 2. And is there a kink? Yes, 3. Okay, so let's write the formula for that. How many hydrogens are there in that line drawing? 3, 3, 2. All right, that's 8. Remember, carbon has 4. And one of them is a carbon-to-carbon bond, so the rest of them are, I do this right, 3. Here we have carbon-carbon, so we have 2 left over, so that's 2 H's here. We have 1 carbon-carbon bond there, so that's 3 hydrogens. So that's 8 hydrogens. So the formula for that line drawing is C3H8.
Just from that little line.
All right, so we have a beginning and an end and a kink, right? That's 3 carbons. And then because carbon needs 4 bonds, this is one of them, and we need 3 more, so that'll be the hydrogens. Carbon's one of them, 3 more hydrogens, and then 2 hydrogens here. Better? Okay, so you're gonna know this molecule really, really well for test 2. This is glucose. I don't see any carbons up there, do you? No carbons at all. I don't see hydrogens except on the oxygens. So you have to put the hydrogens on the nitrogen and oxygen, but not carbons, okay? Now, that thing is very complicated and extremely important in our body. Everything gets changed to glucose before it can go through the glucose metabolism cycle. So if you're burning fat, guess what? It gets converted to glucose. If you're burning protein, it gets converted to glucose. If you're burning sucrose, it gets converted to glucose and fructose. But it's always glucose. Now, you can also metabolize fructose, galactose, and mannose. But glucose is the primary guy in our body. So you will know this structure very well. And there's 2 versions of this structure as well. There's an alpha and beta version. Okay, so let's draw the formula for this guy. How many kinks we got? We don't have any ends because it's cyclic. How many? Well, actually, do we? Well, no, we don't. We have an end there. We have lots of kinks, though. Okay, so how many kinks do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's C6. And how many O's? Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 O's. And how many H's? Well, we've got, as far as the hydroxides go, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 H's there. And then we need this carbon here. Let's go this one. This carbon here has got, well, let's go up here. carbon there has got 2 bonds. We need 2 hydrogens. So that's 2 hydrogens there. This has got 3 non-hydrogen bonds. So we need an extra hydrogen there. Same here. Same here. Here and here. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So C6O6H12. Now, frequently in exercise journals and nutrition journals also, they'll abbreviate carbohydrates by saying CHOs, because most of the time carbs only have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen in them. But anyway, now if we were to draw all the hydrogen and carbons in there, that molecule gets much more complicated. It would look something like this. That's what it would look like with all the H's and C's in it. So that's why biochemists, and it's biochemistry, this is a very simple molecule. Very simple. Biological molecules can be huge, gigante, huge, thousands of C's, thousands. It's amazing. Enzymes are all proteins. Proteins can be huge, and enzymes are huge. So you can see why biochemists and chemists like line drawings. Make life much simpler. But you have to practice doing them. And that's kind of the purpose of Dry Lab 0, is to kind of get used to thinking about Lewis structures and the little line drawing. Okay, so I can't believe I'm still talking without I coughed a little bit, but not too bad. I'm on big time steroids right now. And I had a I went to the doctor and they said, you know, you're bordering on COPD because my asthma was so bad. And he said, I have to give you a shot, and it's a big giant shot. And I have to give it to you in your butt. I haven't had a shot in my butt since I was a little kid. And it was this giant needle. Oh my God. And anyway, so they said, as soon as you start to metabolize this, you'll feel much better. And I had a head cold that wouldn't stop. I had my inner ears are all messed up because of the fluids. I was walking like I was drunk. It was awful. And that cleared up that night. It was amazing. It was like magic. And then also the runny nose I had was awful. So how did I get on that topic? I don't know. Anyway, all right. Any questions about line drawings, going from condensed to line drawings? You'll be practicing this a lot. So if it seems confusing now, you just stick with it, and because we're doing a lot of it, you'll be practicing it a lot. So it should come fairly well. Most students feel very comfortable with this after the first week or so. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to introduce today. I'm going to practice this in lab as well. Now, all the dry labs are not in your packet. They are in your packet, but not in your packet. You're going to be using my version of the dry lab. which to me is much more focused on what we really need to learn. The dry labs in your packet are they're very difficult. And to me, they're just kind of wander all over the place. It's like, crazy. So from a pedagogical perspective, I redid all the dry labs. So you need to download the dry labs. I'll be giving you a hard copy as well in lab. So you'll have both. So at this point, I'm going to knock on wood again with my good old yardstick over here, that I actually can talk for an hour without gagging myself. Here we go. Good boy, Tom. Okay, are there any questions about anything? Okay, okay, lecture is theoretically over at 12:30 or 12:20, and lab starts at 2:30. So we're gonna have some extra time, and I don't know if there's someone in the lab before us or not. If not, we can start early. If there is, we just have to wait. Okay, are there any questions about anything? Are there any waitlisted people in here? We shouldn't have any. I think I had one waitlisted person. All my other classes have like 24 waitlisted people. It's crazy at the beginning of class. Except this class, once you start filtering out a lot of people, we don't have too many waitlisted people. Okay. All right. I'll see you in lab. Tuesday, folks, I'll see you in lab. And Thursday, folks, we'll see you Thursday.